I'm so glad you guys came back. Thank you. Thank you for coming back. So, as Sarah said, those of you, maybe you were or weren't here last week, but this is the picture that I came up with that helps me remember the first half of the theology of the body. And it's just based on the glory be prayer, right? So glory be to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. That is who our God is. Our God is our God one or three? Yes. We have one God in three persons. Our God is this eternal exchange of life-giving love. That's where we come from. We come from God, and we return to God. Those of you that might notice these little words, the exitus and the reditus, the coming forth from and the return. And as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be. This is the story of our salvation history. So as it was in the beginning, this is what we did last week. Last week we talked about this whole beginning story. And John Paul, in each one of these sections of reflecting, he always uses the words of Christ to enter us into that section. Okay, so in order to get us to reflect on the beginning, John Paul uses the words of Christ when he says, for your heart, they're talking about divorce, and he says, for your hardness of heart, Moses allowed divorce. But from the, beginning, it was not so. From the beginning, it was not so. Because of your hardness of heart, Moses allowed divorce. So when Jesus points us to the beginning, John Paul said, oh, if Jesus is going to point us to the beginning, it must be worth reflecting on, right? So here's the beginning. And in the beginning, this is before what? The fall, which that's what we're going to talk about today. It's before the fall. So in the beginning, who were the two main characters? They came back. Adam and Eve. I'm forgetting. I'm sorry. Jim and Rita. What do we learn from Jim and Rita? Do you guys remember last week? Oh, I don't think I said this. How did God make Jim? He took from the dirt, and then he breathed. In Genesis, they tell that story of taking from the dirt and breathing. What does that represent? That he's what? Dust. Yeah, he's dust. He's material. He's like the clay of the ground, right? So he's substance. We can touch him, right? Rita, touch him to make sure he's there. He's there. Okay, we can touch him. But yet what? He's also spirit. He's also soul. He is body and soul. And this is what's unique about humanity, that we are both body and soul, and we have a rational soul. Do you guys remember last week? It wasn't good for the man to be alone. Why not? Yeah. What's his purpose of his life? What's the purpose of his life? To love. Did someone keep saying love last week? Love? No? Okay. Every time I point to you, you say love.
Love.
Okay. So God is
Love.
And he made us out of
Love.
So that we can learn to
Love.
like Jesus.
Love.
It's that easy, isn't it? Is it? Anyone have someone in their life that's hard to love? Does anyone have someone in their life that, I think I'm hard to love. So, yeah, so this is why he was made. So why is it not good for him to be alone? He's got nobody to.
Love.
Right? So then what does God do? He made the animals first. Why did God do that? Why in the world, if he's like, oh, it's not good for Jim to be alone, I'm going to go ahead and make a helper fit for him. And then he makes animals. Why did he make the animals first?
We have something to eat.
Good answer. There's something to eat. Maybe. Anyone have a theological reason? Yeah. He wanted the man to discover the truth that he has dominion over them. So he's different from the animals. He's not going to marry the giraffe or the tiger or the lion because he has different capabilities. Do you remember those two capabilities that humans have that puts them with dominion over the rest of creation? Yes. We can think and we can choose. I heard it from back there. Awesome. Good job. It's our ability to think and our ability to choose, which is a gift of our rational soul, which gives us the ability to love. Right? Yeah. This makes sense. This makes total sense. So this is why God has so much for us to learn from these beginning stories. So we know that we're created by God in his image and likeness, different from the rest of humanity. And Adam discovered that in his solitude. So when you think about this section here, what we learned last week, I want you to remember, you learned about solitude, that we are alone in the world. We were alone in the world without somebody to love, but we knew that we were different from all the rest of creation because we're meant for relationship with God. We come from God when we return to God. But then, after Adam said, there's not a helper fit for me with any of these animals, then what did God do? Put him to sleep. It's almost like a form of non-existence. Put him into sleep. And then he removed the rib. What does the rib symbolize? Yeah. Say again louder. Equal. Yeah, they're equal in dignity. They're from the same stuff. There's a complementarity because when he wakes up and he sees her, he says, do you remember what you said?
At last.
At last. This one at last is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. So in his body, his naked body, he sees that he's not meant to be alone. Because he sees in her body is meant to be given to him. Because the male body doesn't make sense alone, the female body doesn't make sense alone, but in light of the other bodies, they're meant to be a gift, okay? And guess what? This is the very way God designed for life to go on in the world, right? This is the way that God designed for life to go on in the world. Every single one of us are here in this room today because a man and a woman came together. We all come from a sperm and an egg, right? So there's the masculine and the feminine coming together, which is what gives us new life. Now, in my story that I shared last week, I talked about the fact that does it work out in everyone's case that we all get to be raised by our mom and our dad? No, not always. Things happen in this world. People die. People get adopted and things like that. So we're in a fallen world where things don't always go like they should, or that they would be the ideal would be for us to get to be raised by our mom and our dad, but that doesn't always happen. And so thank God for people that step in and take care of us and raise us. And you might feel like an uncle or a grandparent or someone was a good male role model for you, or an aunt or a grandmother was a good female role model. But we all need in our development a male and a female model of life-giving love, because the man and the woman are different. And this is why the man leaves his mother and father and clings to his wife, and the two become one. Right? They become one flesh, which again points to this complementarity that exists. And then the last part, and this is where I made a note to myself to review with this idea of the man and the wife were both naked and they felt no shame. I think this is where we left off, right? What does it mean to be naked without shame? What do you think? Because I think sometimes people hear that from the scriptures and they think, oh, they didn't know they were naked. And I'm like, okay, that's not the intention of the scripture. It's to point out that you weren't ashamed means there was somebody else there, but yet you didn't feel like you needed to hide. It meant that you could bare yourself to another person, okay? And so John Paul describes this naked without shame as having the peace of the interior gaze. What do you think about that? What do you think about the peace of the interior gaze? What does that mean? What's coming to mind for you? Isn't it so beautiful? It's probably one of my most beautiful, my favorite parts of the theology body. The peace of the interior gaze. Have you ever had someone just like really look at you and you could tell as they're looking at you that you think to yourself, wow, this person really loves me? You know that look, right? Maybe it's your mom, your grandmother, your aunt, your grandfather, your dad, your spouse, your kids. But you know when someone has looked at you and you have felt their love and you've looked back at them. Have you ever looked at someone really deeply and then you're looking at them and then tears fill your eyes? That's the peace of the interior gaze. Because you're like, okay, they get me, right? I see them, I know them. So, yeah, okay, I got this video to show. I wasn't going to show the video, but we just did it, but here.
Okay, so come on in. So, how would you describe your relationship?
My mama is my best friend.
You're like brother and sister without being from the same womb.
It's good to finally be together after being apart for a year, which has been a struggle.
Yeah.
When we're alone, we're always all over each other, which is nice. A little teddy bear.
Okay, so if you guys could stand facing one another, we're going to try an exercise, and you're going to look into each other's eyes for 4 minutes.
What?
Oh my gosh.
I can do that. Oh, that's
Are we allowed to blank?
Okay, that's time.
Oh, that was longer and shorter than
How did that feel?
I felt open and awake and connected. Recently, we've been so busy and focusing on our careers, and I just had time to be reminded of all the little reasons why I love you and why I fell in love with you.
Were you thinking about anything during the 4 minutes?
Yeah, it was just memories. It just brought me
Yeah.
back to like the times we've had together and how much fun we've had together and how you've always been there for me and just always looked out for me and taken care of me, and it was just really nice.
I was just thinking that, I mean, how much I really look like you and how much you really look like Nana. And I was thinking,
Don't cry.
Oh.
No.
I'm sorry. It was weird. Like, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at me, I'm looking at her. I'm sorry. I'm gonna mess this up. I'm so sorry.
Do you guys feel like the exercise changed something for you?
It did make me realise, wow, I've got an amazing man. And I don't take it for granted, because I don't think there are many like him.
Did anything come up that you wanted to say to each other?
You make me feel really calm and cared for, and you're such a good person, and I'm so lucky.
I love you, sweetheart.
I really think you're the most incredible woman I've ever met. I actually don't even have words to describe you. I'm glad I'm yours. I love you.
I'm funny. He makes me so happy.
She's so beautiful, so good.
She always says that because I look like her.
So it's one of those things in art. She's a good daughter.
Aww. Okay. Okay, so the peace of the interior gaze. And I love that little video because it had like mothers and daughters. And this is something just to put our phones down, to get away from the TV for a moment, to spend time just making eye contact and say important words to each other that we sometimes don't get the chance to say, right? This is this beginning experience of knowing what life was before the fall, okay? But we all know that this peace of the interior gaze, it didn't last, did it? Who slithered into the garden? The evil one. Satan came into the garden. So this is the second part. Created by God, fallen yet redeemed by Christ. As it was in the beginning, is now. This is the world we live in now. Fallen yet redeemed by Christ. When John Paul reflects on this part, he uses the Beatitudes. And this is the Beatitude that says, oh gosh, hold on. It's the one where he says, you have heard it said, but now I say, right? You have heard it said, but now I say. And he said, you heard it said that you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that even looking at her with lust is committing adultery in the heart. Remember that scripture? Even looking at lust. So what's John Paul getting at here? And what do we know from our faith? Is that sin begins with first our minds and our hearts getting off track from love. Okay, so John Paul says, yeah, even just looking at someone with lust, it means our hearts are not ordered in the right way. So this fallen nature we refer to concupiscence, or just we have a tendency towards sin. We have a tendency towards selfishness rather than selflessness. And this is the world that we live in. So do you remember how it went down? Who remembers the story from Genesis? Because there's some key points to point out there. Anyone willing to tell the story in their own words? So you're not having to listen to me the whole time. What did God say? You can eat from any tree in the garden except for one. What was the name of the one tree they're not eating from? Okay, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Good job. So why the one tree that we're not allowed to eat from? Why the one tree? Because we can have from any tree. It's a paradise, right? Everything we could possibly want. But there's one tree we're not to eat from. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. What that tree should represent to us is that in the garden, in life, there is God and it's not us. Right? That there is a God and it's not us. And God is the one that's going to tell us what's good and what's evil. And then it's up to us to surrender to that, to submit to that, to trust that God actually has our best interests at heart. And if we go to him to know what's good and what's evil, and then we have the opportunity to either choose his truth and reality or to make it up for our own. And that was that original temptation, right? The serpent came down and said, did God really tell you? So sowing those seeds of doubt. And then they just decide that, nope, they don't have to listen to God. They get to do whatever, they get to choose what's good and what's evil. And then that's when the rupture happens. Okay, so let's see if, go ahead, please.
I could just add to that.
Please.
So I see that it's obedience ought to be a response to love and in love, rather than servile. But
right.
Part of the reason obedience is experienced in a fallen world in such a disordered way is because it is often reduced to, I have to. There's consequence.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. that they somehow didn't see God as a loving Father that was really guiding them towards flourishing. They saw God instead as maybe someone keeping them from enjoying life, keeping them from doing, using their freedom like they should. But the truth is that why did God make us free? Why did God give us free will? So that we can love. Yeah. So that we can love. We come from love. The purpose of our lives is to learn to love. And this is why God gave us that gift. So this tree is the opportunity to respond in love to the source of all love. And instead of trusting that he is a good Father that loves us and wants what's best for us, we choose our own path. Okay? So what happens when that goes down? Everything falls apart, right? You know how the story goes. There's a rupture between God and humanity because they hide from God, right? There's a rupture between the man and the woman because God shows up, and what does Adam do? That woman that you put here, right? There's a rupture within the human heart. So what happened to the peace of the interior gaze? Now they have to hide and cover, right? Right. And there's a rupture between humanity and creation. They had to work. There's a rupture between body and soul. They have to leave the garden. And all of this rupture now shows that this original plan, which was God and humanity walking together in the garden, this big rupture, and because of this rupture, the rescue mission begins, right? The moment where everything changes. God comes down, takes on human flesh, and becomes one of us to show us what true love looks like, to show us the pathway back to the return. I was teaching one time with my friend Father Patrick Schultz, and he was holding up the Bible, and he's like, you see, this is a great big rescue mission. And I'm like, it's a love story. He's like, it's a rescue mission. I'm like, it's a love story. And again, what is it? It's both. It's a rescue mission out of God's great love for us. So in this moment, the rescue mission begins when Christ takes on human flesh. The eternal, all-powerful, all-knowing God decided to step into time, take on the poverty, the finiteness of human flesh, to show us again his great love for us. And the rescue mission continues with Christ's life, death, passion, resurrection. It just opens up for us this pathway to experiencing eternal life. And so, let's see. We can see that in this death and resurrection, this is the mystery that happens all the time in all of our lives. I mean, every time the cross presents itself in our lives, it's an opportunity for us to choose to learn to love in a more deeper way than we had before. I remember reading about Padre Pio's life, where he was talking about the fruit of the crosses in our lives and the grace that comes through crosses. And he's like, if we could only see that, we would then welcome the next cross into our lives. Although that's not how it goes for me. When a cross presents itself in my life, I tend to be like, no, not this one, Lord. No. Or is this you? When a new suffering comes into my life, I'm like, are you here? Are you going to help me? How are we going to get through this? Right? It takes me a really long time usually to finally get to the point where my prayer changes and I start to say something more like, okay, Lord, there must be something in this that you need me to learn. There must be some of my rough edges that need smoothed out, something along these lines. And it's usually only after I accept the cross and start to pray my way through it, then on the other side of it tend to be able to look back and see the fruit that came from it. I just have a quick story to share along these lines. This happened. It involves my friend Father Ryan Mann. A lot of you guys know Father Ryan, but The reason I wanted to share this story, because it does involve someone that many of you already know, but I do think that this idea of being redeemed by Christ, we sometimes don't trust in the full power of redemption. And we sometimes, I think that to avoid the cross is the better route, right? Or that we can fix whatever's going on. And one time I was with a friend, and this is the story that involves Father Ryan. A couple years ago, I was with a friend who had just adopted a child. And it was a very difficult first year of life for this child. This child had been in a couple different foster homes. And then he finally came to my friend's home. But again, it wasn't going well at first. She went to a specialist to try to see how this specialist might be able to help them through. And basically the specialist said, I'm sorry, your kid has been through a very difficult time, and I really don't see things getting much better for you. And I think that this is gonna just be a difficult lifelong situation. And I don't see, the doctor even said, I don't see much hope in this. And so she came to my driveway. We stood in my driveway. She told me what the doctor said. We stood out there and cried. As I was leaving my talking with her, my phone rang, and it was Father Ryan. And I told him the story. And then as I hung up the phone with him, I thought to myself, why do I feel like he can help her? Well, I never even had to express that to him, because I got back in my house like a half an hour later. I checked my email, and Father Ryan had written an email to this friend of mine. And the sentiment of this email is what I want to share with you guys. This is what Father Ryan wrote. Jen just told me about your situation, and I can't imagine more sorrowful news than finding out that your daughter seems determined to a life of difficulty and pain. I want to say one thing very simply: be not afraid. Your daughter is not damaged goods, nor do I believe for a moment that her situation has already determined her future and your family's future. This is a time to act like the saints, to fall on our knees and to ask for help, and to begin to love in more sacrificial ways. It's true that your daughter might need more love and attention than your other kids. But imagine the saintly story that she will tell of how God's love reached her through you, your husband, and your other kids. While doctors' views tend to be narrow, faith broadens our perspective. And it helps us realize that our limited human abilities aren't enough for God to work with. The task before you is a big one, and it's going to be filled with numerous times of sorrow and temptation to despair or to take the easy way out. But if you are up to it, you may be the only place that this girl can go to have a chance at life, love, and beauty. Be not afraid. Christ is risen from the dead. Isn't that amazing? She told me that she took that letter, she had it on her nightstand for years, kept rereading it, trusting that God really is who he says he is. He's a God of redemption. He can come into any situation and bring good from it. And I have to say that family is doing really well. That girl is now in high school, and she's thriving. And my friend gives all credit to God, the divine healer, that can come in and restore anything that's broken. This is the beauty of our faith, that we actually believe that there is nothing that God can't bring good from. It's his permissive will that allows for the unfolding of things, knowing that a greater good can come. In fact, we have the audacity to call Good Friday good, right? How are we able to do that? Because of the big picture of knowing that what comes from it, the resurrection, right? So this whole entering into this mystery is what this whole section of the theology of the body is about. And it happens in and through the body of Christ, right? And all the things that happen in our lives are in and through our bodies. And we have to, we can access this redemption in a variety of ways, but some of the most powerful ways that we experience redemption is through our sacraments, right? The Eucharist is how we're nourished for the journey. In fact, and going to confession too. In confession, we speak the words of our sins, and we hear the words, and maybe have hands laid on us to experience and hear God's forgiveness, and able to go forth, with a clean slate, with a fresh start, right? I don't know about you guys, but confession is one of my things I love most about our church, right? Right, Father? That we get to start new again, right? That we get to start. Okay, so when Christ was on the cross, do you guys remember how they could tell that he had fully passed? Remember? Yeah. What did they do? Pierced. They pierced his side, right? They pierced his side, and out came the blood and the water, right? Which was their indication that he had fully passed, right? The separation of the fluids. Sacramentally, what does this represent? What does the water represent symbolically, sacramentally? Baptism, right? And then what does the blood represent? The Eucharist. So it's said that this moment, when this outpouring of Christ pouring himself out for us, shows in a certain sense the beginning of our church. And there's a depiction of, it's called the Unity Cross. There's this depiction of Mary actually holding a chalice at the moment of that outpouring of Christ, and to show that this is how we are nourished for this pilgrim journey of our return to full union with God for eternity. And so when we talk about something coming from the side, what should that remind us of? Creation, right? In some mysterious way, the creation and the redemption kind of like explain each other, right? Because in the beginning, Adam and Eve were created, and God had this original plan. And that original plan was for union and communion and love and togetherness and harmony with God and with each other. But we know through our disobedience, the plan ruptured. We just talked about that. And so Adam and Eve basically said no to God and were disobedient. And yet the new Adam and the new Eve, Jesus and Mary, said yes to God and his plan that was unfolding. So here we have the restoration through the redemption, and it came through a man and a woman. Have you thought about this before? Pretty cool. You probably have. Yeah, you're shaking your head. Okay, so how you guys doing? It's getting warm in here. Is everyone doing okay? You good? Okay. Okay, so this balance, this is one of my favorite quotes of John Paul. The balance and dignity of human life depends at every moment and in every place on who she shall be for him and he shall be for her. So we've been talking a lot about the complementarity of men and women, but I just also want to point out, like, not every single person is necessarily called to marriage, are we? No. In fact, I was saying I was chatting with someone at the beginning of class, like, sometimes the person that we're like longing, thinking we're meant for marriage never comes. I have a daughter right now that's 30, she has turned 30, and she's hoping and praying for a good Catholic man to meet someday, right? So sometimes this is just, I was at a reunion one time, and there was a guy there that was one of my classmates, and it was a couple years ago, we were all turning 50 at this reunion. And I remember at the reunion, he's like, okay, let's take a picture, but no spouses in the picture. And then a little bit later, he's like, next reunion, no spouses. You know, he kept like, you know, yelling things out like this, and people are kind of laughing or whatever. But then later in the evening, I had a chance where it was just the two of us. And I remember when we were in high school, he was a drummer. Like, why is it that the drummers are always like who all the girls think are so cute, right? And I played the flute. I was in the front. But I remember always looking at him. I thought he was so cute. So anyways, this night at this reunion, I got to like have time with just chatting with him. And I said, Tony, like, how are you doing? Thank you for that. Thank you. I was like, Tony, how are you doing? And he's like, he looked at me, he's like, Jen, I never thought I wouldn't get married. I'm like, oh, Tony, I know. I'm like, that must be like so hard. I said, but you know what? I bet that God has placed a lot of people in your life in need of your love. And he kind of looked at me, he's like, he has. You know, and he started sharing with me about his sister and how close they are. And he started sharing me about his parents and a couple buddies anyways. So then I wake up the next morning to a text from him. And he says, Jen, thank you so much for our conversation last night. It changed my worldview. It changed my worldview. So what happened? He went from focusing on what he doesn't have to focusing on what he can give, right? And what an important, we all need to do that. We all need to stop and ask ourselves, okay, Lord, you know, sometimes I'll get my phone out and I'll just start like looking, okay, who haven't I talked to in a while? Who do I need to send a text to? Who do I need to call? Who do I need to get together with? God placed every single one of us in this world on purpose with a mission to give and receive love in a way that only we can. Right? Is that true? Yeah. For sure. And so, yeah, what a gift to be able to flip our viewpoint around instead of focusing on what we don't have to focusing on what we give. And a lot of these male-female images, like again, she was single, he was single, right? But what did we call him? Father. What do we call her? Mother. I have a very dear friend that struggled with infertility for many years of her marriage and was like heartbroken that they were never able to conceive. Then she started getting in youth ministry. And in youth ministry, she had year after year after year, kids ask her to be her confirmation sponsor. And so she's got like all these spiritual children, and she feels abundantly blessed by that, that's the pathway that God chose for her. And youth ministry has had played incredible fruit in her life. So anyways, I just wanted to make sure I bring that up because I do know sometimes when you're talking a lot about marriage and the imagery of marriage, you can kind of get stuck in the thinking that if I'm not married, this doesn't apply to me. But I hope you see that people like to say, if you have a body, the theology of the body applies to you, because basically the theology of the body is looking into how your body reveals love to the world, right? How you bring love to the world. And this is the fundamental truth of what the theology of the body is. Okay, so here we go. Another little video. As you listen to that video, just see if a certain like line or something stands out for you to be able to share with the person next to you.
God is love. And what does love do? I'm a dad of 6.
It creates. So love created space and time. Love overdid it, like love often overdoes things. To have all this be the stage where we meet him, and love put us at the center of space and time. Me at the center of this? I'm so small. Yeah, you are, physically. Spiritually? No. The mountain behind me cannot make a single choice. An ocean cannot love. My little girl, she's going to sleep the other night, and she said, why does the devil hate us? And I just said the first thing that came to mind. I said, I think it's because the devil hates God, and you look like God. And her jaw dropped. She said, I look like God. And as she said that, it struck me in a new way. Yes, you do. You made the image and likeness of God. We repeat these phrases till they mean nothing to us. Could you think about this for a second? You are made in the image and likeness of God. And when all this fades away, you'll still be around. You have a soul. You have an immaterial part of you that goes beyond all this. And again, this is one of those many things that more and more scientific research is pointing to this reality. Near-death experiences have been talked about throughout history. Now we document what happens when someone dies, very carefully. And not everybody has one of these, but of those who have them and come back, the stories are mind-blowing. Did you know that 80% of the people who are born blind, who have a near-death experience, come back, 80% of them vividly describe sight for the first time? Comparative color analysis, all sorts of things they wouldn't be able to describe unless they had seen it. That can't happen unless there's something else going on about us. Man, it's incredible.
Okay, so Cordell, I'm going to give you the chance to pick. He can pick either this or this. Okay? Which one would you prefer, Cordell? I'll even let you hold them. Which one would you prefer? You're going to keep that one?
Sure.
Okay, why? He's actually ready to put it in his pocket. Okay? Why do you want that one?
It's cleaner, neater.
It's cleaner. What's the problem? Why not this one?
It's ripped.
It's ripped? There's another major reason.
Is it fake?
It's fake. Anyways, if you would take, okay, so you're going to go for the real one. Okay, so now, Cordell, just don't listen for 1 second, okay? Okay, so you guys, do you think if we all ganged up on Cordell and like day after day after day for like the next 30 days, we're all like, no, 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 Cordell, this is real and this is fake. This is real and this is fake. This is real and this is fake. Do you guys think we could convince him? No, you don't think he'd fall for it? Anyone think we could peer pressure him?
I think so.
You think we could? What do you think? His wife says no. But you think maybe we could peer pressure of all of us, and we got everyone saying, no, 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 Cordell, this is real, this is fake. Okay, so has there been a time in history where a large group of people have become convinced that a fake is real and a real is fake? Mm-hmm. Yeah, give me an example. What about in the history of our country? Has there been a large group of people falling for a fake, for a lie? History of our culture, what else? What about the Holocaust?
Oh.
Yeah, what about the Holocaust? What's the lie people fell for?
The Jews are bad.
Yeah, the Jews are less than human. That it's okay to imprison them, to kill them, because they're less than human. A lot of people fell for that lie, right? What else?
The preborn babies aren't.
Okay, good. That there's a baby growing in the womb, but it's not really a baby. It can be just discarded. The beginning of our country, what about slavery? Right? We fell for the lie thinking that certain races of people is okay to enslave them. It's not true, right? And so that's just to show that in our fallen world, we definitely can have this tendency to fall for lies. And this is what Pope Benedict called the greatest evil of our time. That we believe that when we start making truth relative, like it may be true for you but not true for me, that then we lose our pathway towards truth itself, which is Jesus. Okay? Okay, let's give Cordell a thank you. You can keep the $1.
I do.
Okay, you guys ready for this part now? Heaven. We're going to talk about heaven. How am I doing? Okay, good. Okay, so what does it mean to be human? Created by God, fallen yet redeemed by Christ, destined for eternal union in heaven. This is the third of the triptych. Remember? As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be. Okay, so destined for eternal union in heaven. Do you guys know what this picture is of? Thomas. All right, tell the story, Jim.
Well, when Jesus first appeared to the apostles, Thomas wasn't there when he said, I won't believe unless I see it and touch it. And this is okay, you can go back.
that's the most graphic. I never.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yes. Why did Jesus still have his wounds?
To show us that it came from death.
Yeah. Yeah. Any more thoughts there, Father? Do you have thoughts there? Why did the resurrected Jesus still have his wounds?
Well, for me, it's a kind of double, that there's, even the risen Lord,
Yeah.
a certain vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because he is love. So, the other, for me, I would say, to show us how we can transform
Yeah.
wounds.
Yeah.
So could be a little different from heal my wound. Because, when we heal from a wound, someone says, I don't even see a scar, we're really happy about that.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, because think about it. When we see Christ on the cross, like that image I showed earlier, when you look at it, do you see a suffering man or do you see an act of love? Right? Because it's both, isn't it? It's both. And so then his wounds then can shine forth with glory because they show the sacrifice that he made for our redemption and our salvation, right? So in this moment, again, when we talk about the resurrection, we're going to talk about, again, about the body. Because how do we see in the resurrection evidence that he was a person, right? Because Thomas was like, I am not going to believe you are resurrected until I actually touch your wounds. Because I saw you die. I saw you, your blood poured out. So there is an element of seeing that in the resurrection, there will be still the body. Because I know sometimes, maybe it was that movie. What's the movie where they say, every time an angel gets his wings, or with the bell or whatever? How does it go?
It's Wonderful Life.
Wonderful Life.
Every time a bell rings, an angel gets
An angel gets his wings. So we tend to sometimes, I think, hear that and think that we become angels or something. I don't know. There's this. But we don't become angels, because angels are different than humans. Because how are we different from angels? Yeah, we have bodies. Okay, we have bodies. And this scripture is portraying this. So tell me more about what Jesus' resurrected body might have been like. When you think back to the Acts of the Apostles or Luke's Gospel, Jesus' resurrected body, what was the experience like? Can you remember any of those scriptures?
He still eats.
He still eats. That's good news, right, guys? Yes. He still ate. Remember, they were making a fire, and then they made fish on the beach, and they all ate. That's good news, right? What else, though?
Walk through a wall.
Exactly. He walked through walls. They were enclosed in the upper room, and he came through, and he, was there among them. And so we can walk through walls. Is that good news? I guess, right? Certainly it's not what human bodies do, but there's something about our resurrected bodies that will have these, abilities. How did Mary Magdalene recognize him in the garden? Do you remember? Yes, he called her name, and she recognized his voice. Have you ever had the experience of someone you love, like say your name, and you hear their voice, and it touches you deeply, right? I know I have saved, my dad has since passed away, but I have a voice memo of him I've saved, and it really, sometimes I love to hear him say my name. He called me Jenny, and not that many people call me Jenny, so when I have the voice memo of him, I guess, I don't know, has this ever happened to you where you're having a bad day and you talk to someone that you're close to and they're like, how are you doing? And you're like, oh, I'm fine. They're like, tell me what's going on. They can just hear it in your voice, right? So there's something amazing to think about in Christ's resurrected body that Mary Magdalene recognized his voice because he called her name and they, had that exchange. Okay, so in the resurrection, again, we don't know exactly what heaven's going to be like. What do you guys think heaven will be like? Paradise? Lots of what? Cats. Lots of cats? Who else thinks there's going to be lots of cats? Okay.
Bright and shiny light that glows.
Lights?
The glow of God.
The glow of God. Okay. Bright, shiny. Colors? Colors, yes?
Vivid.
Vivid colors. A lot of people with near-death experiences do come back and talk about heaven being more colorful, like you can't explain the colors, right? Anything else? What are we going to look like? I don't know. I'm just...
Young.
What's that?
Young.
Young, stunningly beautiful, right? All of us. Any of you guys see that movie Heaven's for Real? You see it? The book? Okay. In that movie, this young boy has a near-death experience, and he ends up like being able to tell his parents where he saw them praying. And then he said he saw his grandfather, and they're showing him pictures of the grandfather. He's like, that's on him, that's on him, that's on him. And then they finally show him a picture of the grandfather young. He's like, that's him. That's good news. Right?
His baby sister that
Exactly.
he never met had miscarriage.
Yes. His mom had a miscarriage and hadn't really told anybody. And when he came back from this near-death experience, he said, Mom, I met my sister. So again, we don't know exactly what heaven will be like. We hear glimpses of stories from near-death experiences. We hear glimpses of stories. Well, we can look throughout the scriptures, right? And depictions of things. But what we believe is that, again, no eye has seen, no ear has heard what God has waiting for those that love him. We also know in our scriptures, we talk about the fact that the blind will see, the deaf will hear, the lame will walk. Everything about this fallen world will be restored beyond what we can imagine, right? I don't know if we have any broken relationships. That's going to be awkward if we're both in heaven together. So we might as well try to work those things out now, right? It might inspire us to seek reconciliation and forgiveness for different, people that we need to reconcile with. What image is used more than any others in the scriptures to describe heaven? Clouds? What's that movie, Cloud Town? That's what heaven is, just all these clouds. But no, we already talked about the fact that we think that there's going to be color. So not just all clouds. But in the scriptures, heaven, go ahead. Say again? A banquet, exactly. A wedding feast, in fact. A wedding feast. And at a wedding feast, there's always going to be lots of food. Do you guys remember the wedding feast at your wedding? Anyone have a good wedding feast? What did you have? What did you guys have? Barbecue, yum. What else? What did you guys have at your wedding? Yeah. Open bar. Who needs food? Everyone just keep drinking. We'll get pizzas later, right?
The thing is, I think, is what we're all just talking about. We think of heaven from our human perspective.
Yeah.
What we would love. We hope our pets are there.
Yes. Yes.
I constantly think of people. I say, "Oh, I hope I get to see you."
Yes.
But heaven, who knows?
Exactly. This is all speculation. Yeah.
It's going to, I know it's filled with God's glory and His
Right.
grace.
Right.
And I think it will be so powerful that we'll be numb.
Yes, I think you're right. I think that we can speculate, we can think, we can dream, we can hope, and we can look at the little hints that we get from Christ's resurrection and from the scriptures and from what our church says, that it will be more amazing than we can even imagine. So at a wedding feast, there's going to be food. At a wedding feast, there's going to be drink. And a wedding feast, there's going to be dancing. So, again, isn't it crazy to think that this is the image God uses to describe heaven? That's good news, right? In fact, if you look at the Bible, at the very beginning of the Bible is a love story, right? It's a love story between Adam and Eve, right? If you go to the end of the Bible, there's another love story. There's a love story between God and humanity. In fact, the very first spoken words in the Bible was what, Jim? Yes, this one at last. The very first human spoken words in the Bible is when the bridegroom sees the beauty of his bride. Wow, this one at last, right? The last spoken words in the Bible, the Spirit says, come. It's the bride saying, come to her beloved. And so here we have all of the Bible is this great big love story. In fact, right in the middle of the Bible is what book? The Song of Songs, which is basically like erotic love poetry meant to portray the relationship between God and from God and humanity. Again, it's a love story. Where was the first miracle? At a wedding, right? At a wedding feast. So this is what we're going to talk about next week to wrap all this series up. Next week, we're going to talk about this. Marriage is the icon given to us in the world that God ordained, right? God created this image of male and female complementarity and fruitfulness coming from that union. That's the icon that he gave us to communicate to us the truth of who he is. And who is he? An eternal exchange of life-giving love. And this is why this icon in the world of marriage, it's important for us to protect it and to revere it and to make sure we know what it means.